Hello and welcome back to Far Beyond the World. We'll be continuing where we left off, which, if you recall, is after Ranok and Kaelin had a little conversation, which they should have from the very beginning, and, not taking advice from outside people. And they've come to an agreement of sorts where they're not together, but they are quote-unquote dating. And they also got some new clothes for Kaelin, and they got some tea for him too. And they found out where there might be, some shoes for the human, because, he's walking around in what amounts to garbage bags made out of burlap. And yeah, so hopefully he'll get some new shoes. Anywho, so without further ado, let's continue. After a short walk down the street, I can finally spot the corner shop the tea merchant mentioned. She's a wolf! I gasp, stopping dead in my tracks and observing the middle-aged female conducting business with some well-off tiger. I'm branded! Ranok narrows his eyes and I tilt my head. A runaway? Most likely. Quite surprising to see one set up shop so close to home. He shrugs and we decide to approach. Why, Aluna's Grace! Turnitin wolf! Her surprised words have a twinge of fear to them. It's been years since we had any newcomers here. And what's this? She darts her gaze to me, immediately scoffing at the sight of my collar. Tsk, another poor soul indentured. What's he meant to be? Your pack mule? Something like that. Kaelin! Ranok stutters, clearly shocked that I've just responded to her in her native tongue. What? It's not like she's going to tell anyone. You speak Wolven? Damn, things back home must have been deteriorating faster than I thought. You don't bear the mark of a weeping moon. Why are you here? He throws at her a barely disguised accusation, causing the female to raise her brow challengingly. Why do you think? You ran off from your tribe. Like thousands of wolves before me and thousands of wolves since. She sighs, dipping her soot-stained rug into some dark paste and returning to the polishing of the ebony piece of armor. Why are you here? If you think of apprehending me, I have to warn you. Even if you manage to take me on, which I highly doubt judging by your blemish-free armor, the city guards would cut you down before you'd force me past the gate. So eager for tigers to defend you? At least they're defending those in need. We're not here to start any trouble. I try to reassure her, causing the female to stop her task for a moment and give a second, this time less dismissive glance. No? Oh, okay then. She plops the rug to the side and rests her elbows against the counter. Wolves in these parts usually are. What can I do for you? Well, I was wondering if you could help me with these. I mutter uncomfortably, raising up one leg and drawing her attention to my makeshift footwear. Oh dear, that is a sad state of affairs, my lad. I've seen humans travel 1,000 miles in better shape than whatever that is meant to be. I was wondering if perhaps that you could make a pair of shoes for me? Oh, of course I could. I'm the best shoemaker in all of Strandbard. You're the only shoemaker in all of Strandbard. A youthful voice echoes from the depths of her workshop. It's a tiger cub, no older than 12 years of age, bringing in heavy buckets of water. Shut your yap. Never naysay to me in front of a customer. She bops her head towards the kid. He must be her apprentice. You taught a tiger our tongue? My friend and protege. She corrects him. The cub wanted to honor me by learning some of my mother tongue. Who am I to object? There were no elders to demand either of our bloods here. Though I must commend your nerve for calling me out, when you've clearly done the same with this wee fella. How come his little pink head isn't on a spike yet? I think we're getting off topic. I poke Ranok into his side. I understand all of this is somewhat new and troubling for him, but I really need shoes, and this is the only person that can help me with that. Please forgive us. It's our first time in Strandbard and it takes some time to adjust. I bet. She gives a reluctant glance to Ranok, but quickly turns to face me. So, if it's shoes you want, I would have to measure your feet and create a custom last. The ones I have were made for men twice your size. Would that take long? I ask and the female shrugs. A day or so, then the actual shoemaking would start. I'm afraid we're rather short on time, though. Perhaps we could settle for sandals? I propose, to which she nods idly. Yeah, that would work. I could knock out a pair in a few hours if you need them today, which by the looks of things you do. Yeah. How much would they cost? If you're looking for comfort and quality leather, then it'll be 8 silver plus 1 extra for priority. Sounds good? Ranok squints his eyes, and I wonder if perhaps we're already overdoing it with this shopping expedition, but the female quickly dispels my misgivings. Seems your master doesn't like it. I find it hard to trust those who turn their back on their people. Sometimes it's the people who turn their back on you, pup. But you're young, and in the right company. You'll learn that soon enough. She straightens up, correcting her apron. Well then, shall we get going? Oh, yes. Come, I need to mark out a silhouette of your soles and measure the length to the midpoint of your calves. The female invites us in, raising the part of her counter that doubles as a door. The workshop, which is fully open to the street at one end, is quite dim and infused with a leather scent. It makes sense, after all, that's what she's working with. Various shelves are filled with either bolts of leather or tools, while the floor is littered with bits of clothing and armor. There are even 2 fully dressed mannequins sporting quite impressive items. One graphite blue vest with nicely embossed edges draws my attention, but my browsing is quickly dismissed by her pointing at a small stool. Sit down and I'll grab some chalk. I do as requested and she returns promptly, pulling some thick straps of leather underneath my foot. I watch as the female outlines my feet with extra care, every now and then stopping to correct a slight mistake or check if the profile looks good. It feels awkward, so I decide to break the silence. You're very focused. You've done this before? You have no idea how many pairs of human shoes I've mended. We're the first largest settlement between Tigeron and whatever's out there. Shoes break and need mending. Makes for good business. Is good business why you're here? Money? Ranok sneers in a cold, dismissive tone, but the female takes no bait. Does it matter? I'm just curious. For someone claiming you aren't looking for trouble, you do seem to be itching for some. Please forgive him. It's just a touchy subject. I interject, looking at her apologetically, and the female shrugs. Why should it be? My personal history has nothing to do with him. I wince, looking to Ranok with worry. Perhaps it's not my secret to spill, but again, who would she share it with? And in truth, I hope that her own perspective might shed some light on things Ranok overlooks. He was once tempted to leave Turnen, but chose to remain. Mistakes were made. Me not running off wasn't a mistake. Ranok nearly snarls, drawing an equally challenging gaze from the female. Me running off wasn't one either. But if you must know, I have no secrets. Judging by your gear and shameless crest flashing, I infer that you're just young, born into position, ignorant, and naive. She darts her gaze between his belt and my neck. Fuck, I keep forgetting about the damn collar. I used to live in Lothian. My father was an outer alpha. I lived comfortably and quite contently, safe in the knowledge that I was matched with a friend I cared for. Were you in love? Maybe. She paused, rubbing her chin in genuine confusion. I never got to clarify our feelings, as he died young during a hunt. A massive boar charged out of nowhere and gutted him on the spot, and that was that. I'm so sorry. Is that why you left? Partially. The female shrugs. But it's my father who forced my paw. Once I was freed from my match, he could promise me to whoever. I wasn't of age yet. To cement his friendship with our overlord, he offered me to him. A gruesome, nasty-looking old fart with a mean streak and penchant for abuse. The disgust in her tone is almost palpable, but she quickly sighs it away. I felt trapped and desperate the closer our mating approached. I was settled for spring equinox. It was a harsh winter that year, apparently one of the worst in living memory. I notice Ranok's ears discreetly honing in on her, even though he pretends to be disinterested. Food was scarce and the tensions were high. One night, a group of wolves were caught stealing from the granaries. They got branded and banished. As it happened, one of them was my friend's lover. He was stealing the food for her and her ward. She told me she couldn't live without him, and that she'd rather be caught trying to leave than stay another day. I give her a sorrowful look, but she remains focused on outlining my feet. I realized there and then that I was of the same mind. I'd rather be dead than carry pups of that nasty tyrant, and with nothing keeping me back, I simply left with her the very same night and never looked back. Don't you miss your family? Ranok asks idly, his eyes barely meeting with hers, almost as if he felt ashamed. Not one fucking bit. The female laughs, rubbing her nose and getting up to her paws. I was 6th for my father and 4th for my mother. I was a spare to both of them, and my siblings were massive cunts. I was only good for breeding and securing alliances. Anyway, that's done. She points to my feet and I get off the stool. How much will it be? 9 silver. He's rummaging in his purse and passes the coins to her, as she gives him a confused look. You're paying for it? Is there a problem with that? No, just not a thing most churning wolves would do, spend money on their wards. I'm not most wolves. Clearly. She mutters with a clear curiosity, but the exchange is interrupted by a loud, cheerful voice ringing from outside. Sloan, you mad bitch, stay away from my son. I tire of picking his puked-up ass from every damn tavern in the city. A male tiger laughs, plopping his elbows onto the counter. Perhaps he should learn to pace himself or simply change the object of his advances. Can you blame the lad for trying? He almost purrs at her and she leans onto the larder. Like father, like son. She mutters seductively. You both might be felines on the outside, but you're clearly dogs on the inside. You know it, Toots. Anyway, I came to pick up my belt. Sloan nods and disappears momentarily beneath the counter. Here you go. Added some reinforcement around the latch. She plops it onto the top with a loud thud and the male inspects it with a smile. Should hold even if you continue to bloat like a frog. Fuck you too, Sloan. In your dreams. Well, I better get going before the missus becomes too annoyed. See you later, and stellar work as always. You seem to fit right in. Ranok comments, and it's hard to discern whether he means it as a compliment or an insult. Anyone fits in Strandbard. She shrugs, to which the wolf nods towards me. Even him? Especially him. Unlike us, humans don't come with a baggage of prejudice to contend with. If anything, the tigers feel pity for them. They seem fond of the buggers. I grimace slightly. Although a nice sentiment at face value, I don't like getting special treatment because I'm an endangered species. It's almost like those annoying people who get exotic pets because they look cool. Right. Anyway, were you a leather worker before you left Turnin? I offer her to change the subject. Seems your work is quite praised. Nope. The female retorts casually. All my father needed me was for squatting out pups. I wasn't taught any trade back home. I frown, unable to not think about Cora and the shitty situation she's in. All I know, I learned right here. Sloan pats the counter of a shop. I was taken in by a tiger master as an apprentice, learned the trade from him, and now I'm slowly taking over. That's a bit unusual, isn't it? For someone to give up their entire business to a stranger? His only son died in Euron, fighting the Wolven Horde, and that boy back there. She bobs her head towards the back room. His grandson, far too young to run this place. That's where I come in. I'm simply in charge until the boy comes of age. And he entrusted you with this? Even though a wolf killed his son and heir? Unlike us, my crest-wearing friend, tigers live in the wilder world where one kin isn't treated as a collective. I mean, for crying out loud, there are 2 Leonin realms in Euron, and they both hate each other. The female almost laughs, drawing an amused snort from Ranok. It's not like our people get along that much better. Exactly. You should forget that noise and simply settle here, kid. She swishes her paw dismissively and looks at Ranok intently. Thank you for your advice, but I'll pass. I mean it. Tigerin is everything people say it is and more. We have real freedom here. Even if I were to believe that, I can't. He replies coldly, only egging her on. Why? Because I have duties and responsibilities. That's what they tell you. She rolls her eyes and throws her head in the imaginary direction of Turnen. My duty was to breed. Yours is to die for the glory of our people. Fuck that shit. It's not that simple. It very much is. She insists, causing Ranok to suppress a growl. Look, I'm sorry your tribe has failed you. I'm sorry you were treated like a spare part. But, if we all simply take off and leave, there will be no one left to ensure that things do change. Change? She scoffs and blinks in feigned amusement. Things haven't changed for centuries because the system our ancestors established is resilient to change. That's not true. Wake up, kid. That false sense of hope is how you get tricked into following orders, staying in line and wishing for the best. That hope is all I have. Ranok looks at her sternly and her expression softens. Why? Why would you ever cling to such a blatant lie? Because I'm going to lead my people one day, and I have to believe that I can do better. Because if I won't do it, no one will. At first, it seems like she understood his point, but quickly waves her paw at him. Alphas don't mean anything in the grand scheme of... I'm not just an alpha, I'm also the future chief. Moonlit shit, when someone's unlucky. She utters breathlessly, looking at Ranok with honest pity. If I don't take my place in the tribe, someone much worse could. I frown, with my heart sinking to my stomach. All this time, I didn't even consider how crushing his fate must feel. He's virtually blackmailed into fulfilling his role, regardless of what he wants. That's fucked up. No one should be forced in such a position. Sloane voices her inner thoughts. It's not an enviable one, that's for sure. But, on the bright side, you seem to be on the right track. Never thought that I would live to see such an unlikely friendship. Ranok smiles softly and nods towards me. Don't mean to be rude, but we have an important meeting to attend to. Would be great if we could get this done. Oh yeah, I guess we did get slightly sidelined. I've got some orders to finish as well. Are we going simple or extravagant? She looks to me, and my confused expression prompts her to continue. I wouldn't suggest anything too ornate, but something at least matching the tunic. Yes, make them comfortable and decent looking. Of course. She nods, rummaging through the various boxes. She returns with a small pelt and glides it across my skin. It's hard not to laugh as it tickles. How does this feel? Quite pleasant. Good, we'll go with the calfskin then. Sloane smiles and begins arranging various small patches of skin across my calves. This is quality work. Ranok pokes at one of the mannequins sporting an imposing but light-looking armor set. You fucking betcha! She laughs. This is the finest leather armor money can buy. I supply the town's watch, Ambassador's personal guards, and even Graki retainers. That's impressive. I nod, even though I am not sure what any of that means. Well, apart from the town's watch. I'm called the Master Leather Worker for a damned reason. How much would you charge for it? Ranok bobs his head at the mannequin, but she just shakes hers. This piece isn't for sale. Made it to order. But a similar one? I guess 3-4 talents? That, of course, is without the embellishments, and dependent on the quality of the leather you want. What if we provided the leather? He proposes idly, and the female looks at him in confusion. Who's we? I'm here on a diplomatic mission. I want to secure trade rights to buy supplies for my tribe. And which tribe would that be? Turnen itself. Haha, someone's having trouble sleeping because of their northern neighbor. She laughs, and I look to her with surprise. You know about Vortigern? Know about him? I grew up near the border with Gilderan. But even if I didn't, the entire heartland's abuzz with that wolf. As much as I appreciate your plight, I'm afraid I won't be doing business with you. Why's that? Ranok stops admiring her wares and looks to her in surprise. First, I doubt you'll secure anything with Ambassador. Ambister? The magistrate. She clicks her tongue. He's not exactly keen on wolves right now. Not that he ever was. Secondly, if I'd sell armor to your tribe, it wouldn't be long before the Weeping Moon learned about it. Should your enemy and my former overlord take an issue with that, it wouldn't take too heavy a purse to arrange for an accident. No, I stay away from the turn in politics, as any exiled wolf should. Is such a thing likely? Ranok crosses his arms and looks at her in a mixture of concern and disbelief. Why so surprised? How do you think that the tribes are so well informed of the events taking place beyond their forest? The Weeping Moons always crave redemption. Half of them stay in constant contact with their former chiefs, hoping for a pardon. They're spies. Ranok concludes, and now that I think of it, it does make sense. The wolves who left on their own don't want to go back. Those who were forced out. And thieves, thugs, murderers. Anything they're asked for comes without a price, and with double the zeal and determination money could ever buy. As they say, you don't fuck with the Weeping Moon. Yeah. He gives me a more stern look, and I shrug uncomfortably. I really need to listen to him more. Right, I'm done measuring. Come back to me in the afternoon, around the 10th hour. I will have your sandals ready by then. No chance to get them done now? No can do, Mr. Future Chief, diplomatic mission. I've got some priority orders, and even if I didn't, this would take a few hours at least. One cannot rush quality work. Either you want good sandals, or you want them fast. I can see a shift in his expression. He hoped I'd have proper footwear for the audience. So did I, actually. Well, thank you anyway. We'll collect them before sundown. Sure thing. Oh, and good luck with Ambister. Aluna knows you'll need it. Ranok nods in gratitude, and with that guides me to the exit. As we walk back towards the market, I drag my feet a little, trying to readjust my improvised burlap shoes. Ranok seems to be deep in thought, and can I blame him? The conversation took a rather heavy turn. But at least now, I can be more mindful of the magnitude of the burden he carries. He wants his people to change, and for better or worse, he is the only insurance of that change ever happening. As flawed as he might be, I have no doubt in my heart that he truly is best suited for the job. Before I saw his position as that of privilege, now it seems more like a curse. As Sloane said it, he's one unlucky wolf. You okay? I mutter softly, drawing his attention. Yeah, it's just a shame to see such talent wasted. Well, not wasted. I smirk. She seems to be flourishing here. She should be flourishing at home, praised and respected by her own people, not foreigners. If only life were that easy. I sigh in slight resignation. I cannot help but think of Cora. Oh? I look up at him in surprise as a deep frown mars the wolf's muzzle. You two made that connection? How couldn't I? The situations are almost identical. Does Cora have any intended? She does. He groans painfully. Some idiot Ponce from Ongwen. I saw that wolf a few years ago during Cora's naming ceremony. Those two did not get along. She'll be discarded once he beds her and puts a pup in her, with no sorrow on Cora's part either. I'm sorry to hear that. I grimace, getting a much fuller picture of their messed up matchmaking system. It's highly dysfunctional. I need to figure out a way to set her up with that moron Colin. I don't understand why he's not taking the bait. A wolf like him should be so lucky to catch her attention. Perhaps you're the problem. I propose, much to his surprise. How's that? You are quite intimidating, and your rows with Cora get even me fooled at times. My voice wavers slightly at this embarrassing revelation. He might think that you are both in it for the long haul, and simply does not want to draw your ear. You know, by stepping onto your territory? Maybe. He shrugs, unconvinced. Whatever it is, I need to figure something out. The last thing that I want is for Cora to be forced to follow in that she-wolf's paw prints. I couldn't bear to lose her. She is sweet. I smile, placing a paw on his arm. I'm sure we'll figure something out. Besides, Cora's more resilient than you give her credit for. She doesn't strike me as someone needing saving. That I can agree on. He nods in mild amusement as we come to a stop before the Magistrate's palace. Seeing the massive structure tower above me like an iceberg forces an involuntary heavy swallow. You're ready for this? Nope. Just stay quiet and follow my lead. I nod nervously and tread behind the wolf, stepping through the marble threshold. The hall we enter is spacious, with a complex vaulted ceiling spanning the entire width of the building. Heavy lanterns hang from up above on the metal chains, while light glistens and reflects from the polished surface. The floor is like a puzzle made out of various pieces of marble of different colors, guiding your eyes towards the front of the desk. The desk itself, wooden and sturdy, is crowned with an imposing white statue of a tiger warrior, clasping a great sword and wearing a rather foreboding crown. I barely dare to meet my gaze with the lifeless eyes of what I assume is the Sorcerer King. Beneath him, working with diligence and reverence, a tigress is shuffling documents and wooden tablets. She's so buried in her task that she doesn't even notice we've entered. Why would she? We're but a speck of dust floating in the sheer scale of this lobby. Halfway through our approach, we're being cut off by an official draped in a rather ceremonial garment, rushing from one side of the hall and disappearing into another. It seems to be a rather busy place. Ahem! Ranok clears his throat as he rests his paw against the counter, drawing the surprised gaze of the tigress. Yes, how can I help you? Me see Tiger Chief. Diplomacy. Very important. Huh? The female blinks, giving us a rather exaggerated, confused expression. Diplomat. Tiger Chief. Now. Ranok reiterates and she only leans back in her chair. Do you mean the magistrate? Yes, the state. Important meeting. Much diplomacy. I snort, clasping my mouth in embarrassment that I did not manage to hold that one in. The female hangs her gaze at me for just a split second, herself being quite spellbound by what was said. I'm sorry, but the magistrate is quite busy right now. Do you even have an appointment? What is she on about? He leans towards me and I whisper back. She asked if you have an appointment. No. The wolf responds. We walk many miles, just arrived. I bring goodwill of my wolf clan to Tiger Chief. No pointing needed. I don't know what to say. The tiger seems to be speechless. No need for your speech. Just point to Tiger Chief. Tell him me turned in diplomat. No, I mean, I don't know how to tell you that this is not how we do things around here. Okay, Mr. Future Chief, diplomatic mission. I teasingly paraphrase Sloane, much to Ranok's annoyance. Should I jump in, or you got this? Oh, shut it. He growls softly and plops the heavy chest he's been carrying onto the desk. Here, serious business. He unlocks the latch and opens a box, flooding the room with a glimmering pure gold. What in the world? She nearly hugs the wall behind her, looking around as if to check if she's being pranked. Mateo! Oh, thank the light. Could you please join me for a moment? She reaches out onto one of the passing officials and the tiger looks at her with slight bemusement. Might have mercy. If I knew I'd be running the front desk as well, I would have asked for a raise. This is serious. The female insists and her colleagues just roll his eyes. Of course it is. This wolf came in with a servant, wanting to see Ambassador. So, not the oddest allegation passing through this hall if you ask me. That's not the point. The female sneers. He has no appointment, no credentials. There you have it then. Case closed. He can be out on his merry way. Book an appointment for next month or something. I'm drowning in census reports up to my neck. I don't have time for what appears to be a human trafficking canine. He gives me a less than pleasant look. Just shut up and look! She grabs the male's vestment to stop him from leaving and opens up the latch of the box. Again, the golden glow floods the room, and this time it's the tiger's turn to jump away as if burned. Holy shit! Right? What do I do? What do you mean, what do I do? Is your head on backwards? Send him up! But Ambassador is in a meeting. There's a wolf in here from Turnin with what appears to be at least 60 pounds of gold. If you want to send him out through the door, you're an insane girl, and this conversation never happened. Don't mix me up with your fuck-ups. I have enough on my own. Thank you very much. Fuck. She groans as her colleague takes his theatrical leave, much to Ranok's amusement. He sneaks a discreet glance of satisfaction and triumph, signaling to me that he won. For now, Fluff. For now. It's not that hard to get your way with bureaucrats when you flash them a chest full of gold. What is your name? Ranok, son of Varrock, Turnan tribe. Right. If you please go and take a seat, I'll see what I can do. She points to one of the far-off benches, and reluctantly, Ranok follows the instruction. We sit down, with me continuously struggling to contain stray chuckles at the exchange, much to Ranok's dismay. I'm enjoying this switcheroo way more than I should. We don't have to wait long, as within moments the tigress is calling us back, somehow managing to confirm an audience without ever leaving her spot. His Excellency has graciously decided to grant you an audience, but I'll need you to leave your weapon here. She smiles awkwardly, nodding towards Ranok's rather imposing gear. You'd be able to collect it from the desk once your business is concluded. I can see the wolf is not exactly keen on the idea, but I simply shrug and nod towards the receptionist. It's a fair request. Once Ranok is fully disarmed, the female bows respectfully. If you go up the stairs to the second floor, cross through the archway and stop before the second door on the right. There are some benches there for you to sit on, as it might take a while. Today's a very busy day, I'm afraid. Did you say important business? Much diplomacy? Ranok asks in a rather impatient tone. Yes, much diplomacy indeed. She nods, barely containing mockery. That is why you're being granted the audience on such short notice. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I whisper, bumping into his shoulder, but the wolf only looks around in confusion. What horse? There are no horses here. It means leave it. It's good that we got an audience at all. I sigh, pulling him towards the stairs, and we begin our climb up. I fiddle with my fingers, watching as the wolf paces nervously in front of the bench. His paws slap the marble floor in a rhythmic pattern, echoing across the empty antechamber. It would be enough to lull me to sleep, if not for the bustle of the town outside. Flop, 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 another series of steps resonate in a different direction, and it begins to slowly bother me. Despite patting the seat beside me on multiple occasions, Ranok decides to act like an impatient child. This is ridiculous. We've been waiting here for hours. Calm down. There's not much else that we can do about it. I mutter, again trying to make him sit, but the wolf continues to ignore me. You could just walk out. Oh yeah, that'll show him. And what would you tell your father? I scoff, looking at him in disbelief. That you lost patience because you had to wait for an audience? Pompous, self-imposing tigers! He is the magistrate. We kinda show up at his doorstep unannounced. I try to reason the prolonged wait, but Ranok sneers in annoyance and returns to his pacing. This is deliberate. They always treat our people like... He cuts off as the massive door finally cracks open. It does so slowly, almost theatrically, like a curtain pulling up on opening night. Lord Ranok of Turnan. A deep voice invites us in, and I look to the wolf with a soft smile. Seems our wait is finally over. Good. It sounds more like a threat than anything else. Agreed. At least you'll stop your grumbling. I tease and jump off the bench, nodding for him to lead us into the room proper. Just remember, a good diplomat speaks softly. I try to remind him, but he huffs in annoyance and rushes onwards. I'm a wolf, not a sheep. I really don't like the sound of that. The chamber is quite tall, with intrinsically decorated vaulted ceilings depicting an open blue sky. I admire the woodwork and paneling as we walk up towards the wide desk resting against the magnificent window. It gives a prime view of the city's bustling marketplace, and I smile at the mayhem taking place between the stalls. The smell of spices and incense overpower the scents even up here, high above the rooftops. To my surprise, I find myself remarkably at ease in such a setting. It almost feels like home. Finally, we come to a stop at the desk, where seated in an imposing chair is an older tiger who, despite his age, looks quite handsome and not at all past his prime. Ah, Lord Ranok, what do I owe you the honor of your visit? I wait very long, my wolf mutters in a somewhat broken speech. I had a feeling his Tigeri would become an issue, but the language barrier seems to be the least of our problems. Ranok's not even trying to hide his frustration, and I sigh internally. Indeed, I'm afraid we're quite busy, so many foreigners passing through our town. Why, just the other day we had an emissary from Lynx Terra. But enough about our problems. Let me hear of your troubles. They must be quite something to have forced you to come to our doors. The tiger waves his paw as if chasing an imaginary fly and looks at Ranok inquisitively. With that choice of words, he leaves no doubt that he's very much not in the dark as to our intentions. No trouble, just trade. Ranok responds with a stone expression, but it's clear the magistrate is not convinced. Oh? Forgive me if I'm taken aback. One is led to believe you wolves only leave your precious woods when in need of something. We need nothing. My wolf reiterates sternly through his fangs, almost as if offended by the insinuation his people are in need. But they very much are. Otherwise, what was the point in coming here? At first, the magistrate mirrors my baffled expression, but quickly determination returns to his muzzle. Ah, a social occasion then. He shrugs, getting up from his chair and while pulling on a silken cord next to his desk. I look back startled at the massive door behind us creaks open once again, and I realize that we're at a loss here. In that case, I'm afraid our talks are concluded. I have far more pressing matters then. Forgive me, my lord, for speaking out of turn. Forgive me, my lord, for speaking out of turn. I step forward, catching both males by surprise. Hell, I even surprise myself now that their penetrating gazes are centered on me. But while Ranok's expression remains that of surprise, the magistrate smiles shallowly, almost begging to question if it's a genuine shift or not. There's nothing to forgive, my friend. In turn and no kin speaks out of turn. The very concept is entirely lost on us, I'm afraid. He emphasizes, looking back at Ranok with scorn. I misspoke then. Forgive my boldness in addressing you so directly, but we have traveled far and I would ask for just a moment of your time. The tiger looks at me with a puzzled expression, but it seems I have captured his interest. He pulls on the cord again and I can see the light flooding from behind slowly recede as the wooden wings come closer together. Once I hear the audible click announcing the doors are shut once more, I sigh in relief. We didn't come this far to have Ranok's pride hamper our diplomatic task. The magistrate returns to the desk, reaching for a crystal carafe, and pours himself a generous glass of deep scarlet wine. Have you been offered any refreshments? Yes, my lord. Twice, in fact. I nod, genuflecting gracefully. Then let me make it a third. The tiger extends a drink in my direction, causing me to blink in confusion. I half expected the glass to be meant for him, but it seems the older male observes the form of a good host. Trying not to cause offense, I nod in gratitude, approaching slowly and taking the glass from his paw. Thank you, my lord. You should enjoy it. It's better than anything the Sullivan folk could produce in their burrows. Good grapes need light, and open hills, two things Turning clearly lacks, along with whatever else you came here for. The tiger pours into the glass and offers it to Ranok, but the wolf just shakes his head. He's more stubborn than Vol at times. But instead of taking offense, the magistrate just shrugs and seats himself comfortably, bobbing his drink in my direction in a silent toast. I oblige, and we both take a sip. Once the wine hits my tongue, I groan in satisfaction, taking an involuntary lick of my lips. Told you. The tiger laughs and I nod in agreement. The wine's indeed delicious. It's rich and quite sweet. Just like any good wine should be. We here no drink, just talk. Again, the wolf struggles to form a proper sentence to the magistrate's growing amusement. Ranok's Tigeri is just as lacking as his manners are. His dislike for everything is clear to see. I'd ask for your forgiveness, my lord. The wolf kind can be quite irritable when out of their element. Irritable, I'd say impertinent. The tiger scoffs as he sloshes the wine around inside his glass, allowing me the opportunity to give Ranok a disapproving look. I assure you, my lord, what we mean no disrespect, just a communication issue. The magistrate looks at me carefully, inspecting every inch of my attire, and once he took a good measure, he flushes his brows. My, this is quite a surprise, an eloquent slave. I frown, seeing that their attitudes are very much paying off each other. Unless I do something, this audience is going to end up in a quarrel for sure. I decide to lean onto his claim that all tigerkin are equal. This time, I think you should ask for my pardon, my lord, for I am no slave. I state firmly but calmly enough to cause the tiger to give me a less dismissive look. I came here as a companion and advisor to Ranok. I am here to aid him in overcoming any potential cultural and language barriers. Is that so? At first, he sounds hesitant, but quickly he shrugs it off, bobbing his glass in my direction again. If this truly is a state of affairs, then indeed I shall require your forgiveness. I am afraid my assumption comes from a rather long history of bad experiences between our species. I will grant you forgiveness, my lord, if you grant us a moment of your time, complemented with some patience and understanding. Both the males give me surprised looks. I can see that Ranok understands what I'm saying. He's just taken aback by the way I'm saying it. I guess a life of combat training leaves very little time to study the art of diplomacy. This is quite interesting. The tiger muses as he pushes deeper into his chair, seating himself in a more relaxed and comfortable manner. I had hosted a group of Vayner envoys to the Sorcery King just a fortnight ago. None of them wielded Tigeri in such a natural fashion as you do. I'd ask if you are a local, but I know that not to be true. He shakes his head, toying with a wineglass. There are no humans this side of the Serpentine, yet your accent does not match that of Freyfall either. I am humbled by your interest, my lord, but our matters here relate to the woven tribe of Turnen, not my mundane origin. I'm sure it's anything but. The magistrate scoffs in obvious suspicion, downing the rest of his wine. Very well. What do you want? He addresses the wolf as he refills his glass, and I look to Ranok with worry. I take a shallow sip to mask my pleading expression from our host. Please, softly. Iron. Tribe want other things too, grain and medicine. Your father has placed an embargo on trade between our people. Was one of the first things he did as chief. Ranok blinks in evident shock, completely thrown off by the remark regarding his parentage, and the tiger revels in it. Yes, I know who you are, boy. I'd be poor at my job if I didn't. The magistrate states plainly as he takes a long, satisfied gulp. Varrock has upheld that embargo for over 20 years, only allowing exchanges to take place on preferential terms for your kind. We had nothing to do with your grandfather's lunacy. What's more, we stayed away from your affairs even when we had ample reasons to interfere. My gaze darts to Ranok, who's clearly getting upset by whatever's being mentioned. I cannot deny that I myself am getting quite curious as to what actually transpired. I recall Varrock hating the sheer mention of his father. So what happened? But all of this has to wait, as their conversation began spiraling into a dangerous territory. For our restraint and patience in the face of your people's transgressions, we were punished. Why should I open my markets to you after decades of such unjust treatment? I have gold. Ah, yes, as if that made a lick bit of difference. Do you see this, wolf? The magistrate sprawls his paws towards the hall around us. Do I look as if I could be swayed by a mere crate full of coins? I'm a magistrate of the Heartlands. In this realm, we sow and reap while coins spurt from the ground beneath us. You're a magnificent administrator, as evident by the splendid city surrounding us. But as any good administrator, I'm sure that you'd never frown on a potential new source of revenue. The male wiggles his nose slightly at the comment, but then waves at Ranok, bidding him to place the chest at the table. The wolf does so with a heavy clank, and the tiger inspects the contents. The glimmer of gold flickers across the marbled walls, but the tiger's expression does not shift an inch. He closes the chest with indifference and folds his hands. Ingots. I suppose you would need those liquefied. What? Ranok throws his head towards me, and I smile gently. He means you'll need them exchanged for coins. Yes, coins for trade. Thought so. The old tiger closes his eyes and ponders for a moment. I can easily arrange for the funds to be available to you, but the main issue still stands. Why should I allow for trade between our people after all that's happened? Because the generosity of the Tigeron is known far and wide? I step in once again, suspecting that another outburst might be brewing inside the wolf. Your kin answers injustice with justice. The trade between your two peoples has indeed been conducted in an unfair manner, but it is something that can be addressed at a later date. What? Ranok bursts out, drawing the attention of the tiger. Your master begs to differ, it would seem. I half expect the wolf to stand his ground, but to my surprise, Ranok straightened up and sighs. No. Humans speak for I. Really? The magistrate's disbelief sounds more like mockery. Seems you have tamed a wolf, sir. A rare occurrence in these parts. He continues his jabs, and I decide that enough is enough. I would appreciate if we would refrain from vile insults directed at my companion. I have his confidence, just as he has mine. I try to sound stern enough to make the older male reconsider his behavior, and to my relief, he does. Again, my apologies. I hope you can forgive my slips of the tongue, considering the extraordinary circumstances of this audience. The magistrate corrects himself in his seat, looking back to the wolf with a more toned expression. So, your people need iron. I assume it's not just any regular metal you're after. You want Tigeri steel. Why should we arm your folk with our most prized resources? Protection. Protection? Huh! Your kin have been raiding our realms for generations. The only ones in need of protection are my people. The tiger laughs contemptuously and darts his gaze between us. It's clear that Ranok is at a loss for words, most likely because he's fuming, but also because he's never played a diplomatic role in his life. Well, anything to add? How about you, human? The magistrate's penetrating stare now lands on me, and I fidget. In truth, I have no idea what I could reply. I don't know their history, and if Ranok isn't eager to correct the statement, there might be a grain of truth to it. What's the matter? Wolf got your tongue? Let us speak freely. You're no longer in the woven forest, beholden to their barbaric laws. I am speaking freely, my lord, despite what you think I have come here as an equal, although employed in Ranok's service. I try to reassert the truth, but the tiger just waves his paw at me dismissively, clearly not trusting my words. Ranok's faltering facade of calm is not helping either, and the wolf barely keeps his composure, clearly aggravated by the tiger's continuing jabs. As you wish then, but my question still stands. Why should I arm his kin? He says that they need protection. From what? This is a complicated situation, more so than I am qualified to handle, yet the line of questioning is so pointed that it's hard to believe it comes out of nowhere. I give a worried glance to Ranok, who's almost shaking in anger, and before I allow him enough time to let his emotions take over, I decide to make a gamble. There's a war coming. I state plainly, drawing Ranok's shock and momentary ear. The magistrate, on the other hand, looks at me intently, but his expression barely shifts. A chief from the northern called Vortigern is building up a force poised on conquest. We don't know where his attention might ultimately shift, but for now, he's eyeing out his brethren. There's a momentary pause and I could hear my own heart pounding inside my chest. I swallow heavily and wait for a reaction, anything at all, and eventually the tiger nods. We've heard as much. He admits, drawing Ranok's attention, and I sigh in relief. I was right. He was prodding us for the truth. But how is another wolfen squabble any of our problems? Why should I waste my time and resources on something inevitable, which occurs with almost regular frequency? Because this doesn't seem a typical wolven squabble, as you so adequately put it. Kaelin. Ranok tries to interrupt, but I ignore him, taking one step forward. We're in too deep. This is an ambitious chieftain bent on power beyond anything the realm has seen in years. Should Turden fall, it wouldn't be a troublesome chief in a far-off corner of the woods you'd have to worry about, but an entire kin united under the iron grip of a tyrant. Who's to say his ambitions would end there? I finish with a question, quite happy to see that I have caught the magistrate's undivided attention. He allows my words to hang as he contemplates them, while I sneak glances at utterly confused Ranok. I'm not sure he's angry with me for saying too much or for sidelining him. In truth, I'm not sure he's angry at all. He looks more dazed, stunned. But he doesn't remain that for long, as the magistrate breaks the silence, poking his finger in my direction. I like this human, a straight shooter and an honest one at that. Very much a credit to his kin. He says at Ranok, and the wolf gives an idle flick of his tail, banishing any fears I might have angered him. He's pleased, at least for now. You know, lad, I have spent many days in Freyfall debating my human counterparts on issues of politics and governance. The tiger now speaks in my direction, pouring himself another serving of wine. In fact, I've been present in Bangarin when the first human magistrate was elevated to such a post nearly 14 years ago. You remind me much of him, bold and without a hint of deceit. He states with satisfaction, bobbing his glass at me, and we take another silent toast as we wet our lips. Your kind is honor-driven, more so than the wolves would ever give you credit for. I'm sure your candidness did not earn you any favors with your master. It speaks for I. The wolf mutters, causing the magistrate to laugh. Ha! Even his tongue betrays his mind. Your property to him, a property that speaks out of turn. Another jab causes a subdued growl to escape Ranok's throat, and I once more am forced to mediate. My lord, as I said, we have traveled far, and forgive my frankness, we did not do so to exchange insults. We won't correct the prejudice of ages today in this room. We're simply here to humbly ask for a trade, on as fair a term as you'll find it in your heart to offer. You have a talent for speeches, my boy. Silver tongue if I ever met one. He smiles in adoration and looks towards a marbled pedestal with a bust of a royal feline-looking figure. The Sorcerer King would love you. I have a half a mind of snatching you, putting you up in a crate, and shipping you off to the capital. Strictly speaking, that would be kidnapping. I respond teasingly, yet my voice is lined with worry, as I'm not exactly sure if he wouldn't consider such an act a rescue. Indeed. And yet, it's the most common way one finds himself in the service of a wolf. Another jab draws an irritated sigh from Ranok, but as much as I find this childish, in this instance I cannot think of a retort. Knowing what I know about Trist, it's very much an accurate assessment. Thankfully the tiger doesn't dwell on it, and he addresses me once again. What is your name? Kaelin, my lord. Your full name, boy. It's just Kaelin, I'm afraid. No one's ever just a name. He responds with a growing suspicion, and I decide to humor his curiosity, more so since I can dispel any of his assumptions as to how I found myself at Ranok's side. I must be no one then, and it might just as well be true. I was found bleeding and near death. Whatever caused my wretched state is lost to me, just as all my prior memories are. Whatever your thoughts on the wolves might be, they have saved me. The magistrate listens carefully as I point towards Ranok with an open hand. He has found me and took me in. He sheltered, fed, and clothed me. He promised to help me recover my memories and find my way back home. I'm simply repaying a debt incurred, as an honorable creature would. Well said, my friend. I'm not going to hide our dislike for your comrade over there. His kind has been quite a thorn in our side for many generations. Ranok is an honorable wolf, I state sternly, and the tiger shrugs with little conviction. Oh, I do not doubt that he believes himself so. Perhaps even you believe it, considering how passionately you defend him. But at the end of the day, he is a wolf. Meaning? I don't hide my displeasure at his blatant xenophobia. His people, when stripped of all disguise and pretense, are savages who follow a primitive doctrine of might makes right. From my limited experience, I would say that's a natural condition for most in power, from a lonely servant to the highest of magistrates. I emphasize the last part, causing the tiger to smile. Again, he bobs his finger at me, and his amusement becomes apparent. You're a sharp one, I'll give you that. I'm also not going to deny that the devotion you exhibit for your lord is touching, perhaps a bit of perverse, considering your circumstances, but not without merit. However, do not take me for a fool. His tone turns. Tigeron, and by extension Avalon as a whole, function on the three principles: liberty, equality, and fraternity, all three completely foreign a concept to the woven kind. Very well then, I won't try to change your mind. I nod in defeat, taking the tiger by surprise. But take this into account. My life was saved by these wolves, who now face the threat of an invasion. I am without any illusion as to what my fate would have been were I found in Vortigern's land. What you need to ask yourself, my good sir, is if you'd prefer that sort of wolf as your neighbor. The tiger reclines comfortably into the chair, tapping his fingers against the armrest. I give a worried look to Ranok, who, despite being slightly unsettled, tries to muster an encouraging smile. The silence protracts uncomfortably, and I'm about to speak up when the magistrate stands up and ruffles some jingling bits inside of one of his pockets. He retrieves a small golden key and walks towards the side cupboard, which he unlocks with. We watch curiously as he removes a scroll with the seal already broken, and walks back to take his seat. I have here in my paw something I am not shared with anyone yet. In fact, not even the capital was made aware of this. The tiger speaks in a hushed voice, shaking the parchment. His tone seems devoid of any previous levity or scorn as he looks intently at Ranok. For the first time, he's addressing the wolf as an actual partner in an honest conversation. It's a letter from Vortigern himself, a pompous upstart, but quite dedicated, I'll give him that. He's styling himself in such a manner that would make our most decadent of nobles feel aghast. Just reading this preamble took me a good minute or two. I let out a weak chuckle, drawing the tiger's attention. I remember very well how Vortigern's titles were greeted at the feasting ground. Can you guess what the letter contains? The magistrate asks, and I blink. I wouldn't presume. Entertain me, please. He requests politely and decide to oblige. I guess he asked for you to stay out of the woven affairs. Asked? You indeed are a human. The tiger scoffs in amusement, shaking his head. It was a demand, quite stern in fact, so you can see my conundrum when it comes to your master's request. Which wolf should I listen to? You're a freakin', my lord, as you asserted many times. I mutter as respectfully as possible. You're also a leader of a sovereign people. You do not have to listen to anyone. But if I were you, I would consider a humble request made in person over a petulant demand made in writing. The tiger reclines back into his seat, linking his fingers at his chin. His entire demeanor shifts, and his posture betrays a growing ease in our presence. My dear wolf, I have no idea what madness forced such a cunning little thing into your service, but you should count your blessings. Indeed, Master Kaelin, we're of the same mind. He looks at me with a kind smile. I shall grant your wolven friend his right of unrestricted trade. The magistrate waves a finger in Ranok's direction. But, make no mistake, Wolf, I'm doing so only thanks to that crafty creature next to you, which I know your people hold in contempt. Thank you, my lord. Tribe, thanks. I bow graciously while Ranok gives a half-hearted nod. Leave the gold with me. It's not wise for any individual to carry such wealth around unarmed. Ranok looks at the chest slightly worried, but I place a hand on his shoulder. After all, that was the point of our mission, to use the gold to establish credit. I'll prepare the documents for you to take back to your chief. 10 copies should suffice. I don't see any need for more, as I doubt he'd sent enough merchants to wield them anyway. 10 is good. Again, my wolf nods as the magistrate empties his glass. Good. Realizing I've been quite tardy with my drink, I decide to do the same, although it seems a shame to guzzle down such a good vintage in a single go. I rub my lips clean as I return the glass to a silver tray beside the carafe on the table, and the magistrate walks up to the silken cord. I guess this means our business is done. He tugs at it, and the door behind us creaks open once again. Give my regards to Varrock. I might dislike your kind on a whole, but your father is the least disagreeable wolf I've met. You and he met? Ranok seems taken aback. We did. Twice, in fact. You look quite like him. At least, before he's gotten fat. Tell him he owes me a rematch. You fight? Now even I'm surprised, but the magistrate laughs it off, waving his hands in amusement. No. He beat me in a round of chess 20 years ago. I consider myself something of a champion in that game, so such a slight cannot stand. Oh. Ranok seems disappointed that it wasn't a contact sport, and it almost makes me laugh. Considering the whispers reaching me from the woods, I wouldn't be surprised if we meet again. I'll be taking a great interest in you, my pink-skinned friend. A very close interest indeed. The tiger nods in my direction and I smile back at him. Eventually, we take another bow as we slowly retreat from the chamber. Just as we're about to cross the threshold, the magistrate's voice echoes across the room. Oh, and another thing. Tell your father that next time he wants to treat with me, he can send the human instead. I don't want to see that insolent brown wolf ever again. Guests should know when they wear out their welcome. He calls out in a mix of a jest and genuine complaint. Before any of us respond, he's tugging at the cord again and the door begins to shut. Our way out of the town hall is awkward, to say the least. I'm still unsure if I haven't overstepped any boundaries while Ranok is buried deep in thought. True, I might have taken the reins of the negotiation, but considering his attitude and language barrier, what else was I supposed to do? Still, I guess I can understand his ear to a degree. It was his mission after all. Why did you tell him about FBtW? He finally breaks the silence, muttering disapprovingly and causing me to twitch, but only for a moment. I was kind of expecting this, so I take a deep sigh and simply look him in the eye. Honesty can go a long way in building up a relationship, while it costs us nothing. If the leather worker knows, you think he wouldn't? I suspect that the magistrate would be aware of FBtW's shenanigans, so telling him as much didn't reveal anything of value. The wolf looks ahead, still mulling over the whole situation. We stay like this for as long as it takes to clear the marbled staircase. I don't like him. He's a snide tiger. He seemed fine to me. That's because you groveled. Tigers always love a good groveler. He almost sounds accusatory, and I rest my hands on my hips. I wouldn't say groveled, I just showed deference to someone above my station. With that kind of mindset, everyone would prove to be above your station. His slight grumpy expression and irritated tone make me smile and I shake my head. When you talk like that, I'm tempted to slap your ears. Take it as you will, but it's true. One must assert his place in life. That's just woven posturing again. I shrug as we finally enter the lobby. We fall silent for a moment, approaching the front desk, but just as we're about to address the secretary, a whistling sound draws our collective attention. She walks to the back wall and uncorks what looks like a pipe stretched all the way up towards the ceiling. Yes, Your Excellency? The female puts her muzzle against the opening and then leans in her ear. What in the... It's a speaking tube. I conclude in amazement as we watch the tigress listen to an unintelligible voice coming down the pipe. Of course, understood, Your Excellency. She plugs the tube again and returns to face us. The Lord Magistrate will have your documentation prepared. You'll be able to collect it from this very desk at the end of the day. Also, here are your weapons. The secretary says with a polite tone, struggling to plop Ranok's 2 swords and a pauldron on the desk. Once they clank against the wooden counter, the wolf begins to dress up. Well, I nod in gratitude. Thank you. We proceed towards the exit while Ranok shakes his head in disapproval. Talking tubes. They're crazy, those tigers. I barely contain a chuckle. He's really struggling to find himself in this new place. Although not exactly modern by my standards, certain gadgets those tigers enjoy must also feel like science fiction to him. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So, we met a new wolf. This she-wolf is apparently a runaway. And given her story, it's kind of clear why she did it, and, more power to her, because she's now a successful, shop, not a shop owner, but, she's running a successful business, and even though Ranok was initially dismissive, I take it that he kind of, was like, yeah, I guess she's right, in leaving, but, she shouldn't have, because he's still a tribal wolf, and, for him, leaving is a big no-no, but I guess he's kind of coming around to the idea that for some people, leaving is, the only option. I mean, it isn't for him, because far be it for him to leave. But yeah. Anywho, what else? Oh yeah, the magistrate. So, in a way, it's a good thing that the magistrate sort of put Ranok, he knocked him off his pedestal, peg, or whatever, because it kind of showed Ranok that a lot of what he knew from the past was wrong, more, and especially with the whole Vidrir thing, because apparently Vidrir spent years in Strandbard and he never did anything. And that never helped the tribe, so there's something suspicious going on there with him, at the very least. And his father was apparently, I guess, well liked, at least by the magistrate, and he would have rather had dealings with his father than Vidrir. And again, there's something very suspicious going on with Vidrir, and I'm assuming he might end up becoming an antagonist of sorts, at least for Ranok and Kaelin. Because I'm pretty sure that perhaps the whole idea of dumping Kaelin and Strandbard didn't originally come from the dad and instead came from Vidrir. Or at the very least, he suggested it a little more persuasively than, you know, the dad. But yeah. Anywho, so we'll have to see what happens with that. Also, I guess Ranok has a surprise for Kaelin in the next, video, which, you guys will have to wait to see. Anywho, so thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play Far Beyond the World yourself, you can find it over on itch, and you can find a direct link to it from the creator's Twitter page, which I will link down in the description. And if you would like to support the project, I will also link down their Patreon, which will give you early access to builds of Far Beyond the World when they are released. Basically like a month before they're released for public. So, you get to know what happens before anyone else does. And I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.